at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We gotta unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped. Enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters. It is Thursday, August 22nd. I'm Dean Obeidallah, as always, here to be your MBFF on Twitter. I hope you're on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, I'm there, at Dean Obeidallah. Facebook.com/Dean of Radio. You can watch the monologue. You can watch guests in the studio. So, as always, there is a lot to cover. But first, by the way, folks, we'll file this under surprise to nobody. Sarah Huckabee, remember her? Sarah Huckabee Sanders, I guess is her real name, got hired by Fox News as a contributor, where she'll get paid to lie for Trump like she got paid to lie for Trump when she worked in the White House. She will join others who lie daily for Donald Trump. And you know what it made me think of? It reminded me of the 2018 White House Correspondents' Dinner, when Michelle Wolf did jokes about Sarah Huckabee lying, and those right-wingers, you know, the one on the right who always we love freedom of speech, and we don't care about your feelings. Well, they walked out on it. They were outraged. How dare you? We knew she was a liar. And here, just play this quick clip. Here is Michelle Wolf filleting Sarah Huckabee at the White House Correspondents' in 2018. Clip number 1, please.
We are graced with Sarah's presence tonight. I have to say, I'm a little starstruck. I love you as Aunt Lydia on The Handmaid's Tale. Mike Pence, if you haven't seen it, you would love it. Every time Sarah steps up to the podium, I get excited because I'm not really sure what we're gonna get. You know, a press briefing, a bunch of lies, or divided into softball teams. It's shirts and skins, and this time don't be such a little bitch, Jim Acosta. And I'm never really sure what to call Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You know, is it Sarah Sanders? Is it Sarah Huckabee Sanders? Is it Cousin Huckabee? Is it Auntie Huckabee Sanders? Like, what's Uncle Tom but for white women who disappoint other white women? Oh, I know, Aunt Coulter. I actually really like Sarah. I think she's very resourceful. Like, she burns facts, and then she uses that ash to create a perfect smoky eye. Like, maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's lies. It's probably lies.
It's lies. Nice reminder. Just a little stroll down memory lane as Michelle Wolf crushed Sarah Huckabee, who is now hired. So the world is just perfect. I mean, Sarah Huckabee going to Fox News is no surprise. Sean Spicer getting hired to dance on Dancing with the Stars is stunning, but this is the world we live in now. Nothing matters any longer, apparently, as long as it's good for ratings. So here is something. I need your help, my friends, brothers and sisters. I sincerely need your help. And this hour is dedicated to you explaining something to me so we can discuss this together. And I mean this collectively, all of us together, because we are 439 days away from the most important election of our life. We're 165 days from the Iowa caucus. February 3rd, 2020 is the first caucus. And we are already hearing this word that's telling us what we should use as the barometer and the metric to determine who we should support in the 2020 Democratic fight. You've seen on cable news, in the last week and a half, I Googled, there were countless articles, literally countless. And I'm talking about the E word. The E word, my friends, electability. Electability. Now, polls show, in the normal sense of electability, the idea of whoever can win the election, polls show that Democrats support the idea of supporting a candidate who can beat Trump over the one that actually agrees with you on every issue. So that is pragmatism. But the question is, what is electability? Because this is all it comes down to. Everyone's talking electability. And it's become now used as a weapon to even dismiss and undermine other candidates in the field. And here is Jill Biden, Joe Biden's wife in New Hampshire a couple of days ago, telling people that it doesn't matter if you agree with Joe or not, he's the electable one, so you have to support him. We're going to hear even more of this, but here's clip number 2.
This is basically the message that's coming out of the Biden campaign. Listen to her say it.
So yes, your candidate might be better on, I don't know, health care than Joe is. But you've got to look at who's going to win this election. And maybe you have to swallow a little bit and say, okay, I sort of personally like so-and-so better. But your bottom line has to be that we have to beat Trump. You know, you may like another candidate better, but you have to look at who is going to win. And if education is your main issue, Joe is that person.
So she's stating something bluntly that polls back that up among Democrats. It just sounds odd to the ear to have the wife of the frontrunner saying the other candidates might actually be better on the issues that you care about, but forget that. You should be supporting my husband. It's weird that she's the messenger of it, but her point actually is very fair because it's backed up by polling. Polls show that. That's what we are. But how do we define electability? Because if the polls are correct, and I think they are, we've discussed this many times on the show with people, we want the candidate who can beat Trump. But it does not mean, I don't believe it means compromising your views on the nominee. It's the compromise should come after the nomination process. That if the candidate you love doesn't get the nomination, we vote blue no matter who. That's where the compromise comes in. Not now. I don't think you should compromise anything now. If you like any candidate, they're at 0.02%. You love them. You should stick with them. Through the caucus, who knows what happens between now and February 3rd, the first caucus in Iowa. There have been plenty of times where candidates with 1% way out ends up blowing everyone away. It's rare, but it has happened. And I went through it a few weeks ago where people were at different times in the Democratic primaries at this exact time out. But here's a few ways, and I want people sincerely to explain to me what you believe electability is and why you think a certain candidate or candidates, and I'd love you to be candidates, not just the one, fulfill that electability. But there are a few points I want to make before we have that discussion. One is, and this has been coming up more and more, including in an op-ed in the Baltimore Sun just today, that for some electability is code to vote for the white male because that's the only one who can win. And they might not come from a place of discrimination. It's more subconscious, implicit bias that you believe the only one who can win is a white male. In fact, Senator Kamala Harris at the NAACP convention recently raised that very point. She said, quote, "There has been a conversation by pundits about electability. Who can speak to the Midwest? But when they say that, they usually put the Midwest in a simplistic box, in a narrow narrative, adding, and too often, that their definition of the Midwest leaves people out. It leaves out people in this room will help build cities like Detroit." And obviously, NAACP, she's talking to African Americans. The Baltimore Sun, very blunt yesterday, an op-ed that was published in their paper today, but came out last night. The title of the article is very simply, "Democrats don't let electability become an excuse for dismissing candidates who aren't white men." And they wrote, "We are concerned that electability is code for white straight man. Some in the electability camp argue that middle America independents won't vote for a woman or an African American or a gay candidate." And it continues on to say, "Look at all the other not so typical candidates who won the presidency. Nobody thought an actor would sit in the White House, hello Ronald Reagan, or a little-known governor from Arkansas, Southern State. Can't forget Bill Clinton." This is all they're writing. And of course, the best example of all, African-American one-term Senator Barack Obama. Even Trump, they point out, no one thought he would win until he did. He was an outlier. Of course, he's a white male. But the point is electability for some can be used as a weapon to put down those who are not white men. Not saying it is. I'm just pointing that out at the top. So here are more from political scientists, various articles I culled around and put together 4 or 5 specific things that they define electability here. And one is the most obvious way to define electability. Who is leading Trump in head-to-head polls? Now, we are really early in this process. Still, name recognition is playing a role, but that is changing as America gets to know the candidates. So if you look at just this, the most simplistic approach, electability, based on who can beat Donald Trump. Well, there's a Fox News poll recently last week. Good methodology, gets like an A rating. Even though we don't like Fox News, their polls get an A rating in methodology from 538, the website, which is a great one. That one, Joe Biden beats Trump by 12 points. And on average in the last month, Joe Biden is beating, according to Real Clear Politics average, beating Trump by 8.6%. So that's number one. Next person down, Bernie Sanders. Fox News poll beats Trump by 8 points. His average is at 5.6 margin of victory over Trump right now. These are just snapshots in time. I'm just using this. That doesn't mean anyone's going to win this at that level, but just to put it out there. So 5.6% is Bernie Sanders' average margin of victory over Trump right now. That's outside of the margin of error of every poll, so that is statistically significant. Then we get to the next two. Liz Warren, the Fox News poll that drove Trump crazy, she beats Trump by 7 points, which must have made him so mad. Her average beating Trump, according to Real Clear Politics, is now 3.2%. That's right around the margin of error, meaning she could be up by 3, she could be up by 5 or 6, or she could be dead even. It's really close. And the only other Democratic candidate who is beating Trump on averages right now is Kamala Harris, up by 2.2% her average, but that's really right in the margin of error. So they're in about dead heat. So the one way, if you're going to look at the most simplistic and you're sitting here today and you're going to decide who you're going to vote for in Iowa on February 3rd, which makes no sense, but just saying simplistically, you're going to Joe Biden, number one, then Bernie, then Liz, then Kamala. That's one theory. Here are more complex ones, which I'm hoping we'll get more debate on them. The political revolution theory, a political scientist calls it, that is who can energize the left. Who is the insurgent liberal candidate with a strong economic message that can counter Trump's message and can energize our left wing and win by a left wing wave in both the primary and the general election? A wave of progressives and people in the middle who lean more to the left and have rejected Trump. Now, according to these political scientists here, the ones they thought would do that best in that one are going to be Bernie Sanders and Liz Warren. That makes sense, I think, to everybody. Doesn't mean the other ones can't win. I'm just saying on the left-wing wave strategy, you're going to say that's electability to you? That's one. The next one, the Obama coalition theory to electability. Who could mobilize the President Obama coalition 2008 and 2012? Meaning overperforming of African-American, Latino, and younger voters. Who can do that? And according to these scientists here, they say Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, and of course Joe Biden, who was part of that ticket. So that's, if you're going to say, to me, it's whoever can, the most electable candidate is who can put together, again, the Obama coalition of 2008 and 2012. Then you're probably going to side with Biden slightly, and then Kamala and Cory. Next one, the Trump voter theory. Who can win back swing voters who voted for Obama? And let's assume this scenario, this fairy tale, that they actually did vote for Obama, then they voted for a bigot like Trump. But there are some out there. Who are the ones that can do that? These people think it's Biden, Amy Klobuchar, Tim Ryan, Kirsten Gillibrand, and Steve Bullock, the governor of Montana, who's on the show tonight. I just literally interviewed him right before the show went on air. We're going to play it in the next hour, the bottom of the next hour. And he won in Montana governor twice in a red state. So is that your theory? Like the only way to win and electable to you is the person who can not just get the Democrats, but people in the middle and even some of the Obama people who have left and went to Trump and get them back. And that's what I mean by electability. It's not just simplistically who can win today based on the polls, because that's too simple and that's not correct. Is your idea of electable who can get the most passion of our Democratic base? And I mean win overall, not just the primary, but overall. So who's going to get the most passionate support that's going to inspire people to make phone calls, to go to the caucus in Iowa and stand there for 3 and 4 hours, to give money, to knock on doors, to canvass for people, to register voters, to make phone calls? Is that your idea? Is it the one who can recreate the Obama coalition? Is that your idea of electable? Is your idea of we need someone who really can bridge the gap and bring back some of the Obama voters and the voters in the Midwest who have left the Democratic Party? Or is it there's another one, the idea of who can just stand up to Trump? And as we all saw when Senator Harris stood up to Joe Biden in the first debate, she jumped remarkable numbers. And after the second debate, when Tulsi Gabbard apparently, went after her, apparently got the best of her in the view of polls, dropped tremendously. But is that your idea? So that's what I mean by electable. What do you define electability? Because that's the word we're all hearing. Every poll shows that as well. The Democrats want to vote for the person who can beat Trump. That's the electable argument. Over, they have to agree with us. Who do you view? I mean, first and foremost, how do you define electable? I'm sincerely curious about this. I might write about it. I might talk about it on MSNBC over the weekend. I want to know how we, the progressive base, define electable. Not the pundits who sit in in Washington, D.C. or the New York Times. Great people. And they tell us what electable means. How do you define electable? And then you don't have to tell me the candidate you think is the most electable, but if you want to share who you think it is, or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, I'd love to hear from you. So did a shorter monologue tonight because I really want to hear this from right to the top of the hour. It's all you. I want to get a sense from the progressive base where we're going. And 866-997-4748. And by the way, if you like the Obama coalition theory one, to remind people, in 2008, when Obama won his election, he got 365 electoral votes and got 66 million of votes to John McCain's 58 million. Trump, in 2016, only got 306 electoral votes. So the Obama coalition delivered almost 60 more electoral votes, and Trump only got 62.9 million votes. So even though the population grew in 8 years and there's more people voting, still the Obama coalition beat Trump in raw votes, 66 million to 62.9, and won the Electoral College. So I'm sincerely, I want people to think about this. Do you want someone who can recreate the Obama coalition? Is that the winner? Is it the progressive left coalition idea? Is it win back Trump voters? Is it someone who can stand up to Trump? Or is it simply you're going to look at the polls before the primary that in your state and you say, who's beating Donald Trump the most? And if it's a significant lead, I'm going to vote for that person because that's who I think can beat Donald Trump. How do you define electable? I want to hear it. 866-997-4748. Be right back. At this point, the question is not who connected to Donald Trump as a criminal. The question is